Hey everyone. So the React website has moved to a different domain and the old website has now been marked as, no longer being updated. So with that, if I go to the website, you can see that it says the docs are old and won't be updated and that the new website is react.dev. So if I go to react.dev, you can see that this is the new website for React. And if I click on learn React and then installation and start a new React project, you will see that create React app, the way we usually scaffolded or created a new React app, is no longer the recommended way in the docs. This is a big thing because it changes. It tells us that the command that we are all familiar with, create React app, is no longer is basically dead. It is no longer the recommended way, right? So let's look at three other alternatives that are better. I'll explain what these three alternatives are and how they are better compared to create React app. So let's get started. So the first alternative that I have is npm create Vite at latest. This is a command line application. This is a CLI, which is very similar to create React app, but different in a lot of ways. So the first thing that it does is, it asks you the project name. I am going to name it React and hit enter. It is not only for React. It supports a bunch of other frameworks as well. So let's select React in our case. And then here you can select if you want TypeScript, JavaScript, with SWC, which is a Rust-based, compiler, which is coming up for React, right? So I will select TypeScript plus SWC. This is what I've been using in a lot of my projects, in recent times. And let me explain what this entire thing is. So I'll hit enter and you can see it's very quick, much more quicker compared to, create React app. So let's follow the instructions. Let's go to cd react. Obviously you wouldn't name your project React in an ideal situation. This is just a template example to show you. Here I'll do npm I to install the dependencies, and let's quickly talk about the differences between create React app and this one. The biggest difference you will see is that create React app relied on Webpack, and Vite is like an upcoming bundler, a new bundler that I have been using for almost around a year now. I used to be on Webpack, then I moved on to Parcel for quite a small amount of time. Then Vite came along and changed everything. So let me show you what the project contains now that we have it scaffolded. So the first thing we'll do is go to Vite config.js, and that contains, a very simple and short configuration compared to what we had in Webpack. So it basically has plugins that has React as a plugin. That's pretty much it, and that comes from the plugin React SWC variant because, we selected SWC. Moving forward, we have our tsconfig JSON and tsconfig JSON for node specific things. Then we have our typical package JSON with dev being Vite, build being TSC and Vite build, and preview being Vite preview. So it's very simple. With create React app, we had React scripts. Now that has been replaced with Vite, and for dependencies they are also quite minimal. You have React DOM, and then type a couple of types for React and React DOM, and we have the Vite plugin, TypeScript, and Vite itself. So it's pretty minimal what we are getting here, right? So and then this and all, so this is something which is similar to what we had in Webpack. With create React app, you have a div with an ID root. In our src main tsx, it basically creates the React root or mounts the React app into get element by ID of root. Very similar to what we had in create React app. And then remaining stuff is basically normal. You have a CSS file, and you have app.tsx, and that contains basically an app component or an app page to say, and that does export default app. That is pretty much it. This is what we have with Vite, npm create Vite at latest. So as React started becoming more popular, more projects started to move on to React. Development happened on the React side, and we wanted much more than just a component library. And then the Next.js came into the scene, and so the second method that we can create a sophisticated application using React is create next app. So let me show you how that is done. So I'll type npx create next app at latest. Make sure we pick the latest scaffolding available. This is very similar to npm create Vite latest. So here I'll type next app. As an example, it says, do you like TypeScript, or would you like to use TypeScript? I'll say yes. Would you like to use ESLint? Of course. Would you like to use SRC? Yep, that is much better for organization. App directory is something which I don't use as of now because it is not so stable. I would not use them in production applications, although I do occasionally try app directory, and I recommend you do the same thing because that is the future of Next.js. And it asks me import alias configuration. This is something that I use in big projects, so it's fine what we have. And this thing is a little bit different compared to npm create Vite, as it will use npm and it will create and install npm dependencies as well. So let's wait for a couple of seconds for this to finish, and we will also look at the third alternative of using npx create React app. Beautiful. Now that the installation is done, let's cd into next app, open it with VS Code, and let's see what does this provide us with. Very simple. This provides also with a tsconfig JSON and a readme file that basically tells us how to start the project, and many other simple things, pages directory and much more. So let's move on. Then it has a package JSON with next dev build start and lint already pre-configured for us. And dependencies, we have type declarations for Node, React, and React DOM. We have ESLint and Next, and again React DOM, React TypeScript. Barely minimal, I would say, for a React application. It's pretty minimal. And we have a very minimal Next.js config file, ESLint JSON file for ESLinting, linting your code. And it comes with app tsx and document tsx, which is, again, like I said, it's pretty pretty bare bones with an index page. The page contains a little bit of content, though. It contains the default scaffolding with where you can deploy next and all. That being said, it also contains with hello.ts, which is like a API endpoint for Next.js. So the third alternative for create React app is the T3 stack, and that has its own scaffolding, boilerplate CLI. So let's look at what is T3 stack in the first place, because I know it's not popular, like as popular as Next.js and in create React app. So T3 stack comes with the following parts already included, but you can pick only the ones that you need. It mainly comes with Next.js, TypeScript, TRPC, and Tailwind CSS, and Prisma, and Next Auth. So obviously Next.js is the framework that we are going with in TypeScript. And instead of building like a RESTful API clients, we would use something like TRPC, and to talk to the database we would use the Prisma ORM, and for styling we'd use Tailwind CSS. For authentication we would use something like Next Auth. So this is These are the basic parts, the basic libraries, frameworks, whatever you'd like to call it, with the T3 stack. So this is like the T3 stack, and this also contains a very good command to scaffold a new T3 stack application. So let's copy its command, go back to the terminal, right click and paste this. Now as you can see, it's a little bit more fancier than create next app and create Vite. So here I'll type T3 app, and yes, I'd like to use TypeScript. Now it is asking me to select the components, or the different frameworks or libraries that I'd like to use. So I don't want next auth. My preference is always Iron Session. They are absolutely beautiful. I love Prisma, I love Tailwind, and I also love TRPC. So those are three things that I commonly pick in a T3 stack application. So let's hit enter, and it says, would you want a Git repository? For now, I'm gonna say no, but otherwise, I would always say yes. And would you like to use npm install? Yep, that will be good. Import alias, like I said, for big projects it's fine, but for small projects it's not really necessary. So I'll hit yes anyways, and you can see it starts installing. So let's wait for a couple of seconds for it to finish. All right. Now, one thing that I've noticed is that the T3 stack, boilerplate takes much longer to install. It took like a good 2 minutes, whereas, npm Vite, npm create Vite, and create next app took much less than, much less time. They were almost instantaneous, whereas this took like a good 2 minutes to finish up. It actually says 3 minutes here on the terminal. So that's good. So I think let's look at what we have right now. Let's go T3 app and code. Okay, let's see. I will quickly walk through this because I know it's going to be a little bit complicated, and if you are creating a T3 app, then it's a good assumption that I can have that a lot of things, because it's a full stack that we are going with. So ts config, okay, tailwind config, okay, it's a pretty standard tailwind config file. Then we have prettier and post css, and then we have wow, okay, interesting. Then we have a much bigger Next.js config file. Okay, that is interesting. I mean, it has more comments and stuff, but that is better than what we had with create next app. Okay, then we have a .env file with a database URL. Okay, I guess this is for Prisma. And let's go to src pages. Oh, is it TypeScript? Yep, it is. Okay, that's good. So we have again an index page. Interesting, I see. Then we have app tsx. Okay, and what about server? Oh, okay, that is much better. Interesting. So you have a server API. Okay, this is the Prisma configuration, I see. And then you have trpc stuff. Beautiful. Okay, and then you have, I guess, yeah, tailwind css. Beautiful. Okay, this is something that I feel is very much usable. Like, it's a very helpful boilerplate code to have, because it reduces a lot of time. Although if I'm going with such kind of a stack, I'd probably start from scratch, create a new repository and go that way. I mean, at this point it comes up to personal preference, but that's what we have, and that is good. Do we have anything in schema? Interesting. Okay, it uses SQLite by default, and there is like an example table. So it's like full, it covers the full spectrum. You have like proper, a full ORM, and so you can create database tables. You can use them in TRPC, functions. You can call these TRPC functions in your front end. So this is all get set go for a big production application, right? So that was pretty much it for this video, where we looked at 3 alternatives to create React app, which is no longer the recommended way. with that being said, this is a new YouTube channel that I'm starting up. So please, subscribe, and most importantly, comment on the video and tell me how it was and how can I improve it. And with that being said, it's almost 3 in the night. So good night, and let's hope that we have a good day tomorrow. Thank you.